The rain hammered relentlessly against the rusted metal roof of the old bus stop, each droplet echoing like a soft drumbeat in the silence. A lone figure stood huddled beneath the dim, flickering light, the yellow glow barely strong enough to hold back the shadows pressing in from all sides. It was past midnight, and the storm had turned the streets into rivers of murky water, rippling under the occasional flash of lightning. Aaron pulled his drenched hoodie tighter around him, glancing once again at the cracked, fogged-up screen of his phone. No signal, no messages. He'd been stranded for almost an hour. The last bus was supposed to arrive at 11:45 p.m., but there was no sign of it. Only the endless rain and the strange, heavy fog that seemed to creep closer every time he looked away. The bus stop itself felt ancient, peeling paint, broken benches, and a faded route map from years ago, barely clinging to the glass panel. Graffiti marked the walls, but the words were too smeared by rain to read. The entire place smelled of damp earth and rust. A cold wind whispered through the air, carrying with it a scent Aaron couldn't quite place, like wet soil mixed with something older, familiar, yet wrong. Suddenly, he heard it. A faint shuffle of footsteps just beyond the fog. Aaron stiffened, squinting into the darkness beyond the street lamp's reach. For a moment, he thought he saw movement. A shape, maybe a person, just out of focus. "Hello?" he called, voice unsteady. Silence. He glanced down the road again, nothing but rain and fog. The footsteps had stopped. Aaron checked his phone once more, only to find the battery icon blinking red, 5% remaining. Frustration bubbled up inside him. He shouldn't have taken this shortcut. His friends had warned him about this bus stop, the rumors, the stories. But that was just urban legend, right? Lightning flashed again, illuminating the street for a heartbeat. And that's when Aaron noticed it. A shadow, standing inside the fog, closer than before. Aaron blinked hard, hoping the rain trickling down his face was playing tricks on his eyes. But when the next flash of lightning struck, the shadow was still there, just at the edge of the fog, unmoving. The figure was tall and thin, almost stretched, with its head slightly tilted as if observing him. But the rain distorted the details, leaving Aaron squinting to make sense of it. "Hey!" Aaron called out, his voice echoing strangely in the damp air. No response. The figure didn't move. The bus stop suddenly felt smaller, the walls closing in as the rain pounded harder on the metal roof. Aaron could hear his own heartbeat loud and fast, nearly drowning out the storm. Then the street lamp above him flickered. Once, twice, and with a final crackling sound, it went dark. Complete darkness. Aaron fumbled for his phone, the weak glow of the lock screen barely illuminating his trembling hands. The shadow was gone. Or had it moved closer? He took a shaky breath and told himself it was nothing. Just his mind playing tricks, fog, rain, exhaustion. He turned his back to the fog, clutching his phone like a lifeline. Suddenly a voice, low, hoarse, right behind him. Waiting for the last bus? Aaron spun around, heart in his throat. An old man stood there, half hidden by the mist. He was hunched under a long, tattered raincoat, his face pale and gaunt, eyes sunken like he hadn't slept in years. His lips curled into a thin, almost mocking smile. Aaron stammered, "Yuya. Have you seen it? The bus, I mean." The old man nodded slowly, his face unreadable. "Been waiting here a long time myself. They say the last bus doesn't stop here anymore." Aaron frowned. "What do you mean?" "The schedule said The old man interrupted. The schedule lies. This stop. He gestured toward the fog. It's special. People get lost here. Go missing. Aaron felt a chill, colder than the rain. You're messing with me, right? The old man didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his coat and held out something small. A tarnished bus token, old and worn, the edges corroded. This, he said, pressing it into Aaron's hand, is the only way out. Aaron stared at the token, then looked back up. The doors hissed open with a metallic groan. Aaron hesitated, the cold bus token burning in his palm. The rain intensified, drumming harder on the rusted bus stop roof as the eerie driverless bus idled before Aaron. The doors hung open, creaking slightly with the wind, yet no sound came from within. Just a vast, hollow silence pressing against his chest. Aaron's grip tightened around the tarnished bus token. His instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs felt rooted to the wet concrete. The fog seemed thicker now, swirling closer like pale fingers reaching for his ankles. He stepped forward. The interior was almost completely dark. Save for the dim, flickering overhead lights, the seats looked old, their fabric torn and damp. At the far end of the bus, he thought he saw something shift. Just a shadow maybe, but it felt like eyes watching him. Aaron hesitated at the edge of the steps. Hello? Is anyone driving this thing? No response. The wind howled louder outside, and he felt the weight of the token in his palm. It felt colder now, almost freezing. Against his better judgment, he boarded. The doors slammed shut behind him. Aaron jumped, heart pounding, as the bus jerked forward with a lurch, the engine rumbling to life. Still no driver. The wheel turned on its own. Aaron sat near the middle, glancing nervously at his surroundings. The windows were completely fogged over, rainwater streaking down like thin fingers. Outside, the world was lost in mist. No landmarks, no street lights, nothing. Then the whispers began. At first it was barely audible, like rain brushing against glass. But as the bus moved deeper into the fog, the whispers grew louder, distinct. Get off. Turn back. This isn't your stop. Aaron spun around searching for the source, but the bus was empty. Or so it seemed. Suddenly, a wet footprint appeared on the floor just behind him. Then another, slow, deliberate, moving closer. Who's there? Aaron shouted, his voice echoing down the dark aisle. A figure emerged from the shadows at the far end of the bus. Pale, gaunt, familiar. The old man. But something was wrong this time. His face was distorted, hollowed further. The skin stretched impossibly tight over sharp cheekbones. His eyes were nothing but black pits. Aaron stumbled back, heart racing. What do you want? The old man spoke, but his voice sounded layered, like multiple voices speaking in unison. The token. Give it back. It's not yours to keep. Aaron's pulse pounded as he clutched the token tighter. The bus lurched again, speeding up unnaturally fast, yet outside remained a void of swirling fog. The old man took another step forward. The whispering voices grew louder, almost deafening. The token binds you here. Give it back, or join the others. Aaron felt a terrible realization sinking in. He wasn't just a passenger anymore. He was part of whatever this was. And the bus was never stopping. Aaron's breath came in short, ragged gasps as the pale figure advanced, its hollow eyes fixed on him. The bus trembled, as if the very air inside had thickened, pressing against his chest. The rain outside blurred into streaks against the fogged windows, making the world feel impossibly distant. The old man's voice echoed again, layered and distorted. You were warned. The token does not belong to you. Aaron clutched the cold metal token tighter, feeling it pulse faintly against his palm. Like a heartbeat, slow and steady. What do you want from me? Aaron stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it raised a trembling hand and pointed toward the fogged windows. Aaron turned. Through the condensation, faint shapes pressed against the glass, pale faces, distorted and half-formed, their hollow eyes watching, mouths opened and closed, as if trying to speak, but no sound escaped. He recoiled, heart pounding. Who are they? The old man's face twisted into something more grotesque, the skin peeling back to reveal black voids where his features should be. They were passengers, like you, trapped, waiting, holding on, when they should have let go. The token. Aaron felt a sickening realization creep over him. The token wasn't a way out. It was a binding. A trap. Suddenly the bus jolted, throwing Aaron forward. The lights flickered violently, plunging the cabin into strobing darkness. And then he heard the footsteps again. Not just one set. Dozens. They echoed all around him, wet and heavy, like bare feet dragging along the aisle. The figures pressing against the windows began to vanish, only to reappear. He scrambled backward, pressing against the fogged window, pulse racing. No, no, stay away. The old man spoke again, voice like the wind howling through an empty cave. The token binds you to the stop. You accepted it. Now, you must choose. Surrender it, or remain. Aaron's mind raced. If he gave it back, would he be free, or would it be worse? The figures stepped closer, their mouths parting to whisper in unison. Give it back. Join us. The bus seemed to twist around him, the seats stretching, the floor warping under his feet. The rain outside turned darker, almost black, as if the storm itself had become sentient. Aaron clutched the token, feeling its pulse grow stronger. Or was it his own heart sinking with it? He had to break free. But how? Aaron's mind raced, heart thundering in his chest as the pale figures closed in, their hollow eyes fixed on him. The token felt heavier now, colder, almost burning against his palm. The whispers surrounded him, echoing from every direction. Give it back. Stay with us. No escape. The old man's voice boomed above the others, hollow and sharp. You cannot leave until the debt is paid. Aaron stumbled back, pressing against the fogged window, his breath leaving streaks of condensation. Debt? I didn't ask for this. I was just waiting for a bus. The old man's face twisted, his features melting further into a void of darkness. You accepted the token. You claimed the ride. Now, you are part of this place. Aaron felt a sudden pull in his chest, like invisible strings coiling around his heart. The bus felt alive, throbbing, pulsing, the walls pressing closer. The figures, passengers, reached out with pale, trembling hands, their skin damp and cold. And then it hit him. The token wasn't just binding him. It was binding them all. Aaron looked down at the small, tarnished coin. The surface was engraved, worn but legible now in the dim light. One last ride, non-returnable. It was never meant to be held. It was meant to trap. The bus jolted violently, screeching as it sped faster through the endless fog. The windows no longer showed rain, just darkness, swirling and endless. Aaron knew what he had to do. Summoning every ounce of courage, he shouted, I'm not staying here. And threw the token toward the aisle. The token clattered against the floor. And everything stopped. The figures froze. The whispers ceased. The fog outside began to dissolve, revealing faint outlines of buildings and streetlights. The old man's hollow face twisted into something like surprise. You released it, but will it return for you? The bus screeched to a halt. The doors hissed open. Aaron didn't wait. He ran, out into the rain, away from the cursed stop. But as he fled, he swore he heard a voice echo from the mist. Another passenger will come, soon.